you from the Hudson Media Group studio. This is Talking Politics, and I'm New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. Yes, it is me, Fernando Uribe. Happy February to you all. Happy Super Bowl week. I can't tell you how hard I'm going to be rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs because I just absolutely loathe the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think anybody in North Jersey probably does too. So enjoy the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Be safe, please party responsibly, and let's hope for a great game with even better commercials. But right here, folks, we'll stick into politics, and there's always a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, by the time you watch this, it's been a couple of days since the State of the Union address. And certainly for those of us that are political junkies and love watching these State of the Union addresses over the years, I'm sure that we're all glued to our TV sets when we watch it this week. And of course, the President of the United States will be painting a very rosy picture, but of course, the facts are not on his side. And certainly just one number that I think is irrefutable, when he entered office in January of 2021, inflation was at 1.9%. Currently, in February of 2023, inflation stands at 7.9%. So somewhere along the line, folks, Sleepy Joe may have not spoken to his, economic advisors, but clearly the country is not on the right path. To even add and make the problems even worse, according to a recent CNBC poll, which again is not a conservative think tank or website by any means, over 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know about you, but is that really building back better? I don't think so. But here's some more stats and information I think that sort of refutes what we heard a couple of days ago during the State of the Union address. Now, again, let's be very clear, folks. There'll be no shortage of subscribing to all the woke nonsense that we know has become sort of a staple in this administration. It seems like, I don't know, maybe focusing on pronouns instead of what's going on at the Pentagon seems to take precedent. Whether it's balloons that are flying over the continent of the United States, whether it's the fact that we are still paying an enormous amount of money in our grocery bills. Certainly, cars are more expensive. I know this as I'm shopping around for a new lease. Folks, whatever it is, kitchen table issues, the president is on the wrong side of history. And let's not even forget the sort of abysmal excuse that he has for a vice president who has yet to really be assertive in really addressing the problem at the border, as illegal immigration is running rampant throughout the United States. Don't believe me? I don't know. Check out the Plaza Hotel in New York City, where I'm sure New York City Mayor Eric Adams, is regretting his comments about making New York City a sanctuary city. Or, of course, what's going all the way out west in California. Take your pick, folks. Gavin Newsom is up to his neck in all of the illegals that he's coddling over there. But certainly during the State of the Union, ladies and gentlemen, we saw, again, just an enormous amount of misinformation coming from the White House. Now, let's just sort of go into a little bit more about what's going on here. Now, of course, talking about inflation was already here when I got here. Well, that's just not true, okay? Now, of course, also we look at the fact that economic barometers, as we see it right now, yes, there's been some job growth, but not the job growth that the President of the United States obviously would like to brag about. Folks, wages are still not commensurate with what's going on with inflation. And yes, while the workforce has recovered since COVID, right, we're about almost 2 years out of the pandemic, and folks, time does fly. Just think about it. Just 3 years ago at this time, we were just almost awaiting the world being shut down. We didn't even really know it yet. We saw some inklings on the wall, we saw some reports, but we didn't expect anything that would happen exactly in the next 30 days. But certainly, again, since we're out of the pandemic, the economy may not have been to where it was pre-pandemic. Now, of course, folks, one of the things that's really interesting, though, is that the gross domestic product reports indicate that there's an ominous, perhaps, recession coming, not seen in quite a amount of years. Now, of course, what's also interesting is the fact that the president continues to get it wrong with distorting the facts about the labor market. He's quick to brag about a sort of record number of jobs being added during his first 2 years of office, and he's technically correct about, let's say, non-farm payrolls increasing dramatically. But folks, this is cherry picking once again by the White House and by his economic advisors, of course, and not to mention taking the data completely out of context. Okay? Now, the economy did indeed lose 20.5 million jobs since March of 2020. Quite frankly, an unprecedented decline by any stretch of the imagination. But the recovery was also unprecedented. But of course, as businesses reopened, some slower than others, some lost jobs were indeed restored. However, the recovering lost jobs is hardly the same thing as job creation. And folks, this is where the left and people who support the president, who enable the president of the United States, fail to understand this. Again, did you not take Economics 101? For a lot of representatives in the House or senators sitting in the U.S. Senate, I mean, some are lawyers, some are CPAs, some are whatever you want to call it. They're professionals, folks, with degrees. Somewhere along the lines, you had to take an economics course. Somewhere along the line, you had to learn about businesses, jobs, and creation. And clearly, whether it's the President of the United States, who again, who's been in government now well over 50 years, of course, and many of his enablers, Chucky Schumer over there, the Senate Majority Leader, as well as former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Again, these are all people that have been in government for almost half a decade, if not most of their adult lives. And yet they'll continue to lie to us about how the economy works. So again, don't pay attention to clowns like Paul Krugman with the New York Times. We know he's consistently gotten it wrong. Or Robert Reich, the former Clinton administration economic advisor. Folks, it's not a left or right issue here. It's quite frankly understanding just how basic economics works. Again, I'm going to repeat the line. Recovering lost jobs is not the same as job creation, because as we all know, it's the private sector that creates jobs, not government, contrary to popular belief, especially by those on the left, especially all the progressives that think they know, economics when they don't. Of course, let's move on here. Now, there might be some on the conservative side of the aisle, like myself, that might say, well, did President Trump, the 45th president, indeed create more jobs than the 46th president, his successor? Now, by Sleepy Joe's logic, he would say yes, but the entire discussion really is regaining lost jobs after the government imposed the shutdowns. And quite frankly, folks, the fact that these shutdowns were harmful to businesses. Case in point, take New Jersey, for example. Okay, we're all going to see what these results are from this commission, right, by the Governor Murphy, who's, of course, using taxpayer dollars to pay consultants, one of which invested handily and heavily into his reelection campaign in 2021. Folks, that information's out there. It's not like I'm making this up, okay? But of course, this commission and this investigation and the results will not be available until after November this year. Wow, what a coincidence. During perhaps one of the more hotly contested legislative election cycles in recent history, well, guess what? The governor wants to make sure that the Democratic majorities in the Assembly, which stand right now at, I believe, 46 to 24, and 24 to 16 in the state Senate, well, guess what? I'm sure the governor doesn't want to risk any of those majorities being slimmed down whatsoever. But we're all going to know, folks, once the information comes out, we're going to know what we've already known for 2 years now. Governor Murphy got it wrong, okay? He took a one-size-fits-all approach to COVID instead of a regional approach. You want to know why Ron DeSantis is polling so well among national conservatives and even national independents? Because he got it right about COVID, okay? He looked at the state of Florida, and again, you might just say, well, Fernando, New Jersey is densely populated. It's nowhere near what Florida is. Folks, Florida has multiple pockets that are as densely populated as New Jersey, okay? But Ron DeSantis got it right. You saw job creation. You saw a better standard of living. You saw, obviously, a mass migration of people leaving blue states like New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and New Jersey collectively. Even the same thing in Texas with the great Governor Greg Abbott there. Okay, 2 freedom-loving governors in 2 freedom-loving states that got it right on COVID. Okay, these are governors we should be applauding, not Governor Murphy, not Governor Gavin Newsom. Okay, not even Governor Andrew Cuomo at the time, or even his successor Kathy Hochul. Okay, or even Ned Lamont in Connecticut. These are governors that got it wrong, very much like the president got it wrong when he encouraged these states to shut down. When he encouraged states to keep the shutdowns in all of them, and you know what? That hurt businesses. So the idea that the president wants to lie to us during the State of the Union and say that, oh, the State of the Union is strong. No, it's not, Joe. It just isn't. Anyone living paycheck to paycheck will tell you that. Sure, people that are living, I don't know, above 6 figures might be celebrating, but even they are feeling the crunch, especially here in a state like New Jersey. Okay? But don't say that to Sleepy Joe, because again, pronouns, making sure that we are accommodating transgendered people, making sure that, you know what, that we're pushing, sexuality in our public schools. Well, that's what's really important to Sleepy Joe. Not day-to-day things that matter to everyday people. Kitchen table issues that matter. Of course, folks, a lot of time remains between now and 2024. And hopefully, at least for this journalist pick, I'm hoping that Ron DeSantis wins the presidency, because if it's any indication of the way he governed Florida, it's a pretty good indicator he'll govern the United States of America in the same efficient and, quite frankly, very competent way, which is more than anything less I can say about Sleepy Joe and the 46th president and this god-awful administration. Folks, you saw it during the State of the Union. He blatantly lied to you, and you can tell already what's coming for the next year and a half until he decides to run for re-election. But in the meantime, we need to hold Joe Biden accountable. Hopefully House Republicans will do that. Senate Democrats, I seriously doubt they will. But we'll find out, folks. There's a lot to choose from, and there's a lot of topics to sort of dissect between now and 2024. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now some local stories for your consideration. Let's start off in Union City, and a special thank you to John Hines, the editor of the Hudson County View, for his report on this story. State Senator Brian Stack opened up a new legislative office in Union City, along with his running mates, and quite frankly, it created quite a stir in North Hudson. Now, Chairman Veneri of the HCDO went on to say during this rally this week, quote, "This is an outstanding legislative team, starting with Craig Guy for county executive. We don't leave any vote uncounted. We won't leave any door unknocked. We will ring on every doorbell. We vote the ticket from top to bottom, and we're going to be victorious come June." Veneri is also the Hudson County Board of Commissioners chairperson, and it's now being revealed shortly that he is a candidate for a commissioner position in the township of North Bergen, as that also coming up on May 9th is a very hotly contested mayoral election as well. And of course, he led the party in backing State Senator Stack's LD 33 ticket early this week. Now, the team of Stack is also consisting of Julio Marenco, certainly the outgoing Revenue and Finance Commissioner in North Bergen, and certainly Gabriel Rodriguez, the outgoing mayor of West New York, as they will both be accompanying State Senator Stack on the assembly ticket in the 33rd Legislative District, which again, folks, changed dramatically after redistricting, because now LD 33 will consist of Union City and Weehawken, of course, as it was originally, now along with West New York, Guttenberg, North Bergen, and Secaucus. Nevertheless, they'll be on the same ballot as Guy, the chief of staff to the retiring Hudson County executive Tom DeGees, who is also personally gratified to be part of the team. Former U.S. Representative in the House of Representatives and current West New York mayoral candidate Albio Series was also in attendance, and of course, he is seeking a fourth term as mayor. Went on to say that on behalf of State Senator Stack, he'll be there, quote, 1,000%. Now, Marenco is a Union City native, coincidentally, and went on to say during the festivities, it's a, quote, a huge honor of mine to run with Stack, while Rodriguez joked that he was excited to hit doors in Union City for the first time, that he's actually had the permission to do so. Now, during his remarks, State Senator Stack said that he has a, quote, two-pronged election, of course, to help Albio Series get elected on May 9th and subsequently to lead the team to victory in June in the 33rd Legislative District. Now, of course, State Senator Sacco, currently, right, is the outgoing state senator in the 32nd Legislative District. Now, of course, he endorsed Brian Stack earlier last year for re-election, certainly after redistricting transpired in Trenton, and certainly we all know that Nick Sacco was not going to challenge Brian Stack in a primary race in the newly revamped 33rd Legislative District. As part of an unwritten agreement that we've all come to learn about for some time now, in North Bergen specifically, Mayor Sacco had the ability to select at least one of State Senator Stack's running mates. Of course, also in attendance were Weehawken Mayor Richard Turner, County Commissioner Caridad Rodriguez, along with Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee, who subsequently will end up becoming the new state senator and will be the new 32nd Legislative District, as well as Sears' running mates, Commissioner Victor Barrera, candidates Adam Parkinson, along with Marielka Diaz, who are also both Board of Education trustees in the town of West New York. Of course, those are the few of the dignitaries in attendance. Folks, I have to say that as someone who lives in the 33rd Legislative District and someone who has an enormous rapport with Mayor Stack, of course, State Senator Stack, folks, nobody works harder than State Senator Stack. You can call him anytime, any place. He's been working pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic, whether it's delivering turkeys, whether it's delivering vital social services to seniors and our children, and making sure that the Union City School District receives the funding it needs from Trenton itself. Folks, there isn't a harder working legislator anywhere in Trenton in any of the 120 legislative seats than State Senator Stack. And you bet your money, you can bet your bottom dollar, folks, that Brian Stack's going to be on just a consistent and very concerted effort to make sure that he helps Albio Series win in West New York, and certainly to make sure that he gets a great turnout in June for not just himself, but his brand new assembly running mate. So again, I'm sure many people will say, well, they have a lot to sort of prove themselves on should they win the primary and then subsequently go on to win in November and start serving in the legislature in early 2024. Again, folks, there's a long ways away from January 2024, but for now, it's about knocking on doors, it's about mailing out flyers, it's about getting ads out there, using social media, and quite frankly, getting the message out that State Senator Stack continues to be, quite frankly, the most accessible and, quite frankly, the most prominent legislator anywhere in Trenton, New Jersey. Let's travel a little north to North Bergen, and once again, thank you to John Hines, the editor of the Hudson County Review, for his report on this story. Now, State Senator and current North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco announced his ticket for re-election coming up on May the 9th, which includes 2 new members, Hudson County Democratic Chairman Anthony Veneri and also Board of Education Trustee Claudia Rodriguez. Mayor Sacco went on to say in a statement this week put out by Vision Media, quote, "It has been the honor of a lifetime to serve the residents of North Bergen as mayor. During my time in office, I have worked tirelessly to improve our community in areas such as education, infrastructure, recreation, and public safety, all while keeping property taxes stable to keep our communities affordable." Of course, Sacco was making his 9th bid for mayor in a statement earlier this week. "I am proud of the progress we have made together, but even more excited about North Bergen's future." Now, Veneri also is the chair of the Hudson County Democratic Organization, as well as being the current chairman of the Hudson County Commissioners, again, former freeholders, right? And for the past 7 years, along with Rodriguez, a former staffer in State Senator Sacco's office, of course, is replacing Commissioner Julio Marenco and also retiring Commissioner Frank Gargiulo. With Sacco retiring from the State Senate at the end of this year, obviously, due to the redistricting, he endorsed, as I mentioned earlier, State Senator Brian Stack after a tumultuous redistricting that went on in February of 2022. Now, they did work out a deal to have North Bergen pick one of Stack's assembly seats, and subsequently, Nick Sacco did that. Now, of course, the pick ended up being Marenco, who's ultimately received the backing and the coveted line spot by the Hudson County Democratic Organization, again, along with his running mate, West New York Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez. As for Rodriguez, Claudia Rodriguez, she will be the first Latina commissioner in township history, if elected in the nonpartisan race this spring, while Larry Weinstein has certainly announced his run once again to challenge Mayor Sacco coming up on May the 9th. Folks, let me just say this, and I have a vested interest in this race because my parents live in North Bergen. And certainly it's nice to see some diversity on the ticket like Rodriguez on there, obviously going on to be perhaps the first Latina to serve in an executive position really in the township of North Bergen. Certainly we've had Marenco, so we've had others. But folks, this is where I guess sort of the rubber meets the road. And yes, Nick Sacco is running for an unprecedented 9th term. We all know Larry Weinstein has made some inroads when it comes to voting and percentages. Can Larry Weinstein maybe finally unseat Nick Sacco coming up on May the 9th? That remains to be seen. We've all seen the ads. We've all seen the social media engagement. We've all seen his operatives going door to door, knocking on doors, getting petitions, getting signatures, giving out flyers. But arguably, folks, I think what Larry has been doing during this election cycle is just simply saying, this is what I will do to make North Bergen better. Yes, there are some people in North Bergen that won't go out and vote for whatever reason. They look at Nick Sacco as a fixture in the town, and they quite frankly don't want to reverse course. Well, folks, guess what? That choice will be up to you, North Bergen residents, coming up on May the 9th. But without question, this race might be one to watch here because it's going to be very highly contested. Don't believe me? Don't go by social media, folks. There's a buzz on the street, and Larry's trying. Whether or not he succeeds on May the 9th remains to be seen. I'll be talking to him shortly on my 7-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, which you can listen to on blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. And I know that Larry will have a lot to say about what his vision for North Bergen will be should he be victorious on May the 9th. Again, folks, a lot of time remains between now and later on this spring, but trust me, it's going to get very fickle and going to get very feisty in the township of North Bergen. Let's move back south just slightly to West New York, and certainly thank you to Julio Reynoso, the editor of Hudson TV, for his report on this story. Over the weekend, West New York Forward officially opened their campaign office. Now, mayoral candidate Cosmo Cirillo opened up his campaign headquarters, which is located at 6317 Hudson Avenue in the uptown section of West New York. It will be open Monday through Fridays from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m., and certainly on Saturdays from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. through May the 9th for the West New York Commissioner election itself. Now, as we all know, Commissioner Cerrillo's running mates include Assemblywoman Angelica Jimenez, current Commissioner Margarita Guzman, and longtime residents Hiram Gonzalez and Walter Lopez. Now, folks, there was an interesting turnout that day. Nobody really that I think sort of stood out in the sense of, obviously there were no elected officials there to support Cosmo. There were no police officers. There were no teachers. And I think that, quite frankly, the buzz on the street about Cosmo is that, listen, Cosmo has developed quite a name and a reputation working, as we all know, in the Department of Recreation, working with the West New York Little League. He's become a fixture for parents, ladies and gentlemen. He's become a fixture for seniors. Now, what I would say makes this race incredibly, incredibly diverse and tough to call is where former Mayor Felix Roque stands in all of this. To the best of my knowledge, no petitions have been picked up. There's no signatures made. Again, he had an event. He introduced 2 commissioner candidates, but he has yet to announce the other commissioner candidates, which again, folks, before you know it, March the 6th, which is the deadline to submit petitions, is quickly approaching. Now, all I can say, folks, again, during this commission form of government and sort of the way it works with elections, it's the top 5 vote getters that decide who ultimately is going to be that body in West New York. And of course, after the top 5 vote getters get together, they decide who becomes mayor during a reorg meeting. What I would argue, folks, is certainly we know that Albio Ceres, former U.S. representative and former mayor himself in the late 90s to early 2000s, carries enormous political weight. He's going to carry, I think, an enormous burden against the, obviously, the opposing sides. Now, can Albio pull others across the finish line with him? That remains to be seen, which brings me to Cosmo now. We know Angelica Jimenez has developed a stellar reputation in the state legislature. She's been a well-liked assemblywoman. We all know Margarita Guzman is very well-liked in the community. She's a young Latina. Certainly, a commissioner has been very accessible to West New York residents for quite some time. And of course, she's run already for re-election with Cosmo and, of course, with the incumbent. So she understands the rigors of a tough campaign. Nothing against Gonzalez and Lopez. Not to say that they're relative no-names, but again, they have not yet developed the political capital that the other 3 have thus far. Now, can Cosmo get across the finish line himself? Absolutely. I would be shocked if Cosmo isn't one of the top 5 vote getters come the evening of May the 9th. But again, folks, the question remains, where does Albio and where does Cosmo get 2 more people across the finish line? Because ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going to decide the reorg meeting. Okay? Do I think that there could be a split ticket? Sure. That's very possible. Hasn't happened in the township of West New York, my hometown, by the way, since I believe the mid to late 1950s. Okay? We all know how tribal West New York politics has become. As we all know, Hudson County politics is tribal altogether. But can Cosmo do it? That remains to be seen. Can Albio do it? Listen, folks, with the backing of the HCDO, and again, I'm being very objective here. I'm not slandering anybody. I'm not being malicious. I'm not being mean-spirited. I'm just calling it as it is, folks. I go by math. I go by facts. I go by stats. Okay? The facts are that the HCDO backing carries a lot of weight for Albio. The fact that elected officials, whether it be State Senator Stack, whether it be Mayor Richard Turner, his former chief of staff, obviously, well, Albio served in the U.S. House of Representatives, whether it's Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis, whether it's State Senator Joe Crine. Folks, if you went to Albio Ceres' campaign kickoff event at the Great Cliff in Moonachie, folks, it was a packed house. We've all seen the footage. We saw it on Hudson County TV. We saw it on Hudson TV. We saw it on all social media. Okay? Now, does Albio carry that weight? Absolutely. The HCDO also carries that weight. We know that the HCDO has a mobilization apparatus that will get people out, that will knock on doors, that will get mailers out, that will, again, participate in social media, get that engagement that they need to make sure that Albio gets elected. Ultimately, well, re-elected, really, since, he stepped down some time ago. He never really lost the office, as they say. Now, can Cosmo do the same thing? Folks, if you put a gun to my head right now and said, Fernando, pick 5 people. I can't do that. It's too close to call in West New York. Now, some of you might say, Fernando, you're out of your mind. No, I'm not out of my mind. I talk to a lot of people on the ground, people that I talk to off the record, a lot of operatives that'll give me information and say, Fernando, you've been the only guy to call this the way you have, openly and honestly. And I'll continue to do that, folks. Nothing's going to change on this show or the rest of my media brand. I'm going to call it as it is. This is too close to call here. I would argue, now again, if you just had to put me on the spot, I would say it's Albio, and I would say probably it's Victor Barrera, okay? Nothing against Adam, nothing against Marielka. They're great, great candidates. I know them personally. One's donated to my philanthropy, and one has always been a gentleman in attending my philanthropic events. When it comes to Cosmo, do I think Margarita can get across the finish line with Cosmo? Absolutely. Can Angelica do that? I don't know. It's tough to say, folks. But I can just tell you right now, those are the 4 people that I conclusively see making it into that top 5 vote totals coming up on May 9th. Who's that 5th and deciding person? It's not going to be Felix Roque, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of you out there might think it will be. It's not. He hasn't gotten one petition yet. He doesn't even have a ticket announced, at least a final one. And we're less than 29 days to go until the filing date. I don't know about you folks. It doesn't look good for Felix Roque. He may drop out. I don't know. He sounds very angry. He sounds very, very energetic about reforming West New York. But if you don't have the apparatus right now, it doesn't seem like Felix Roque is going to be able to get the votes, never mind the votes, the signatures that he needs, folks, to be able to get on that ballot for May 9th. We all know Cosmo has tremendous energy. We've seen it. I attended his fundraising event, his kickoff event at Las Palmas a couple of weeks ago, just like I attended Albio Sirius's event. And this is what I think we have to really pay attention to. It's not about social media engagement, because I think we confuse likes and clicks and views on videos. When it comes to my media brand and what I do, yeah, views are important. Engagement's important. Clicks and everything else and shares, that is amazing. That is what really keeps me relevant in Hudson County media as well as Garden State media. But when it comes to local election, folks, it's about knocking on doors. It's about getting seniors energized. It's about getting parents energized. It's about getting people down the waterfront that live near Son Cubano on Riverwalk Place all the way to Fillmore, all the way to Jackson, all the way to the housing units right off of, I believe, right behind Miller Stadium. It's about getting all of those West New Yorkers together and sending a clear message. Now, who's doing a better job of that? It's too close. It's too early to say, folks. It's mid to late February. It's still cold. Again, knocking on doors isn't the most convenient or most desirable thing to do right now during the winter months. But I assure you, as it gets a little bit warmer, trust me, folks, February will be come and gone before you know it. Daylight savings time in March. Sun will be out a little bit longer. People will be knocking on doors. There'll be more events, outdoors, more fundraisers. That's where I think that this is where, again, the rubber meets the road. And this is where Albio and Cosmo are going to distinguish themselves. Who can they energize? Who can they mobilize with? Who can they get the vote out with? Again, folks, it's not about sharing on your Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. It's about who's going to get out to vote, who's going to physically leave their homes, pull that lever, vote by mail, knock on doors, put up lawn signs. Who are going to be the West New Yorkers that are going to decide this race? I would just say it's everybody, as I said, from everybody from the waterfront to the back of Miller Stadium. It's these lifers and maybe even these new transient residents that are going to decide who's West New York's next mayor coming up on May the 9th. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media right here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Don't forget to subscribe to the Hudson Media Group YouTube page. Amazing content down there, of course, including myself, John Highness, and others, of course, made up of the Hudson Media Group family. Don't forget to like the Hudson Media Group on Facebook, folks, and of course, follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. Check out my own media brands via Blog Talk Radio with Talkin' the Hudson by going to blogtalkradio.com/talkinthehudson. Recent guests have included the Dean of Hudson County Journalism, Al Sullivan, Councilwoman Mira Prince Array, and coming up later this week will be North Bergen mayoral candidate Larry Weinstein. Don't forget to follow the show on Instagram, folks, at Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe. And, of course, check out my own Instagram and Twitter itself at the Fernando Zone. It's the handle on both of them. And make sure you like me on Facebook. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist and the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, and as always, thank you so much for watching.